President Margaret Stone stood at the window of her private quarters aboard the starship Harmony. Earth grew smaller behind them as they traveled toward the most important meeting in human history. She was 52 years old with gray hair and kind eyes that had seen both war and peace. The people of Earth loved her because she always fought for what was right. "Nervous, Maggie?" asked Dr. Lisa Carter, her closest friend and advisor. Lisa had been with Margaret since the early days, when they both believed humans could find their place among the stars. "A little," Margaret admitted. She touched the small pin on her jacket that showed Earth's flag. "This could change everything for our people." Commander Jake Martinez walked into the room. He was tall and serious, the kind of man who took his duties very seriously. "Madam President, we'll reach Kepler Station in 6 hours. Captain Bell has checked all security measures twice." Margaret nodded. Jake had been protecting important people for 15 years. If he said they were safe, she believed him. The Galactic Council had finally agreed to meet with humans after 30 years of saying no. For 3 decades, Earth had sent messages asking to join the great community of worlds. Every time the aliens said humans were too young, too primitive, too emotional. But Margaret had changed that. Her speeches about peace and working together had finally made some aliens listen. "Tell me about them again," Margaret said to Lisa as they sat down for dinner. Lisa opened her datapad. "The Zephyrians are the most powerful. Their leader, Chancellor Vextai, controls over 200 worlds. They're proud and think they're better than everyone else. They have blue skin and are very tall. What about the hegemony? Admiral Krell leads them. They're warriors who took over their enemies instead of making friends. They look like reptiles and have sharp teeth. They respect strength, but think humans are weak." Margaret frowned. "And the Etherians?" "Matriarch Silandra speaks for them. They seem peaceful and wise, but some people think they're just very good at hiding their real thoughts. They're thin and pale, almost like ghosts." Jake sat down with them. "Ma'am, I don't trust any of them. For 30 years they ignored us, now suddenly they want to meet? Something feels wrong." "Maybe," Margaret said, "but we have to try. If we can join the Council, Earth will be safe. Our children will have a future among the stars." Captain Ryan. Bell entered the dining room. He was Margaret's personal guard, a man who had saved her life 3 times during her presidency. His hand never moved far from his weapon. "Report, Captain," Jake said. "All systems normal. The alien ships are keeping their distance like they promised. No weapons pointed at us." Ryan's voice was calm, but his eyes were always watching. Margaret looked at the 3 people who had become like family to her. Lisa, the brilliant scientist who dreamed of learning from alien knowledge. Jake, the commander who would die before letting harm come to Earth. Ryan, the guardian who never slept when danger was near. "Whatever happens tomorrow," she said, "I want you all to know how proud I am to serve with you." The next morning, Kepler Station appeared on their screens. It was huge, bigger than any human city, built by the Council as a neutral meeting place. Ships from dozens of worlds docked at its arms like metal flowers on a giant stem. "Impressive," Lisa whispered. "Intimidating," Jake corrected. Their shuttle landed in a bay filled with alien vessels. Margaret had seen pictures, but seeing them in person was different. Some ships looked like living creatures. Others were perfect geometric shapes. All of them were bigger and more advanced than anything humans had built. The station's corridors were wide and tall to accommodate different alien species. The air smelled strange, filled with scents from 100 different worlds. Margaret walked between Jake and Ryan while Lisa stayed close behind. They entered the Great Hall, and Margaret's breath caught. The room was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to reach into space itself. Hundreds of aliens filled the seats, representing species she had only read about in reports. At the center sat 3 thrones. Chancellor Vextai of the Zephyrians was even more imposing in person. His blue skin seemed to glow, and his golden eyes looked down at the humans like they were insects. Admiral Krell's reptilian features were twisted in what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. Matriarch Silandra appeared almost human, but there was something cold in her pale eyes. "So," Vexthai's voice boomed across the hall, The children of Earth finally come before their betters. Margaret felt her anger rise, but she kept her voice calm. We come as equals, hoping to join the community of civilized worlds. Krell laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Equals? Your species has existed for what? A few million years? We have ruled the stars for eons. Age doesn't make wisdom, Margaret replied. And power without compassion is just tyranny. The hall fell silent. No one had ever spoken to the council leaders like that. Silandra leaned forward. You speak of compassion, human. But we have seen your wars, your violence. What makes you think you belong among peaceful species? Because we learned from our mistakes, Margaret said. We chose to be better. She stepped forward and Ryan tensed, ready to move. But Margaret raised her hand, asking for calm. Members of the council, she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. I stand before you not as a conqueror, but as a friend. Not as someone asking for charity, but as someone offering partnership. She spoke for 20 minutes about human achievements, about their art and science and dreams. She talked about children on Earth who looked up at the stars and wondered what friends they might find there. Some aliens seemed moved by her words. Others looked bored or angry. The three leaders whispered among themselves. Finally, Vextai stood. Your words are pretty, human, but words are cheap. Let us drink to your attempt at diplomacy. Servants brought out glasses filled with a blue liquid. Margaret recognized it as Zephyrian ceremonial wine, a gesture of respect she hadn't expected. To understanding between species, Margaret said, raising her glass. To understanding, the aliens replied. Margaret brought the glass to her lips just as Ryan shouted, No! The energy beam hit her in the chest before she could move. The glass fell from her hand, shattering on the floor as she collapsed. Lisa screamed and caught her as she fell. Maggie, stay with me. Margaret's vision blurred, but she could see Vextai standing over her, a small weapon in his hand. Unfortunate accident, he said calmly. Ceremonial weapons sometimes malfunction. With her dying breath, Margaret grabbed Lisa's hand. Tell them, she whispered. We tried. Then Earth's greatest leader was gone, murdered in a hall that was supposed to be a place of peace. Ryan drew his weapon, but alien guards surrounded them instantly. Jake shouted into his communicator, calling for immediate evacuation. As they carried Margaret's body away, Vextai smiled coldly. The humans had been dealt with. Soon, Earth would learn its place in the galaxy. But they had made one terrible mistake. They thought killing Earth's leader would break humanity's spirit. Instead, they had just awakened something far more dangerous than they could imagine. The shuttle carrying President Stone's body landed on Earth 3 days after the murder. Billions of people watched on their screens as the flag-covered coffin was carried from the ship. Many were crying. Others stood in angry silence. Dr. Lisa Carter walked beside the coffin, her face pale and her eyes red from crying. She had not slept since watching her best friend die. Commander Jake Martinez followed behind, his jaw tight with rage. Captain Ryan Bell moved like a man carrying the weight of the world. He had failed to save the woman he swore to protect. Vice President Patricia Hayes stood waiting at the bottom of the shuttle ramp. She was 60 years old, a former general who had served Earth in 3 wars. Her gray hair was pulled back tight, and her blue eyes were hard as steel. The Constitution said she was now president, but she felt like a soldier preparing for the biggest battle of her life. Welcome home, Maggie, Patricia whispered as the coffin passed her. The funeral was held in Washington's largest cathedral. World leaders came from every continent, but the most important people were the ordinary citizens who lined the streets for miles. They held signs with Margaret's picture and flowers from their gardens. Children who had never seen war wept for the leader who had tried to bring them peace. Patricia stood at the podium and looked out at the sea of faces. The alien observers sat in the back watching to see how humans would react to their leader's death. Margaret Stone died trying to build bridges, Patricia began. She believed that all thinking beings could live together in peace. She was wrong about one thing. She thought the galaxy was ready for peace. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. But she was right about something else. She believed in the strength of humanity. She believed that when we face darkness, we do not hide. We do not run. We stand together and we fight back. Patricia's voice grew stronger. The aliens who killed our president think they have won. They think murdering our leader will make us weak and afraid. They are about to learn how wrong they are. The crowd erupted in cheers that could be heard for miles. The alien observers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. After the funeral, Patricia met with Jake, Lisa, and Ryan in the secure bunker beneath the Capitol. But they were not alone. Admiral Kevin Ross sat at the table, a man so secret that most people did not even know his name. "Madam President," Admiral Ross said, "it's time you learned what we've really been doing for the past 30 years. He activated a holographic display that showed the solar system. But instead of the peaceful research stations everyone knew about, the display showed massive weapons platforms hidden throughout space. While Margaret was trying to make peace, Ross explained, we were preparing for war. Every diplomatic mission brought back alien technology. Every trade agreement gave us access to their computer systems. Every cultural exchange taught us their weaknesses." Lisa stared at the display in shock. "You've been spying on them this whole time?" "We've been learning," Ross replied. "Did you think we would trust species that called us primitive for 30 years? Did you think we would leave Earth defenseless while begging for their approval?" Jake leaned forward. "What are you showing us?" Ross smiled grimly. "The Sol defense. Grid 50 weapons platforms disguised as science stations. Each one has enough firepower to destroy a battle fleet. And that's just the beginning." The display changed to show shipyards hidden in asteroid fields and on the dark side of moons. Hundreds of ships were under construction, using technology that combined human engineering with alien science. "How many ships?" Patricia asked. 3,000 completed, 5,000 more being built. "And they're not like anything the aliens have seen before," Ryan spoke up. "They'll detect them the moment they launch." "No, they won't." Ross activated another display. "Dr. Carter, meet Dr. Alex Turner, head of our stealth program." A thin man with nervous eyes stepped forward. "We've solved the detection problem. Our ships are invisible to alien sensors. They can't see us, they can't track us, and they won't know we're there until it's too late." Lisa shook her head. "This is insane. You're talking about war with half the galaxy." "They started the war when they murdered our president," Patricia said firmly. "Now we're going to finish it." Ross brought up intelligence reports. "The Triumvirate thinks they've crushed human spirit. They're already moving fleets toward our borders. Vexthai is bragging about how easily they eliminated our leader. Krell is planning to invade Earth within 6 months. Let them come," Patricia said. "They'll find out what humans are really capable of." Over the next month, Earth prepared for war in secret. The alien observers reported that humans seemed broken and leaderless. They saw the mourning crowds and the angry protests and assumed Earth was falling apart. They were wrong. In hidden facilities around the world, weapons factories worked around the clock. The stealth ships were loaded with new missiles designed to penetrate alien shields. Soldiers trained for boarding actions and planetary assaults. Scientists worked day and night to turn alien technology against its creators. Lisa found herself leading a team of researchers who had been studying alien weaknesses for decades. "Every species has a fatal flaw," she told her team. "The Zephyrians are too proud to work together. The hegemony relies too much on their computers. The Etherians think they're too smart to be fooled." Captain Bell was put in charge of a new unit called the Ghost Regiment. These were soldiers who would fight in the shadows, striking without warning and disappearing before the enemy could respond. "We're not just fighting for revenge," Bell told his men. "We're fighting to make sure no other species ever has to watch their leader murdered while trying to make peace." Jake was promoted to admiral and given command of the attack fleets. His job was to coordinate the largest military operation in human history. He studied the alien positions and planned strikes that would cripple their ability to fight back. "They killed Margaret because they thought we were weak," he said to his officers. "We're going to show them what human strength really looks like." Meanwhile, Patricia addressed the United Earth Assembly. The aliens were listening, expecting to hear surrender or pleas for mercy. "Fellow humans," she began, "our president died trying to build a better future. The aliens who killed her think they have won. They think we will crawl back to Earth and hide like frightened children." She paused, looking directly at the alien observers. "They are about to learn that our greatest strength was never our president. It was our unity. It was our determination. It was our refusal to give up when faced with evil." Her voice grew cold as winter. Margaret Stone believed in peace, but she also believed in justice. Today, we choose justice. Today, we choose to show the galaxy what happens when you murder the innocent. The assembly erupted in applause. The alien observers sent urgent messages to their governments. Earth was not breaking. Earth was preparing. But by then, it was already too late. The ghost ships were already moving through space, invisible and deadly. The weapons platforms were already targeting alien positions. The soldiers were already boarding their transports. Margaret Stone had died trying to make peace. Now humanity would make war, and the galaxy would never be the same. The aliens had made one fatal mistake. They thought killing Earth's leader would end the human threat. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant that would not rest until justice was done. 6 months after President Stone's murder, the galaxy believed Earth was finished. The alien news network showed pictures of empty human embassies and abandoned trade posts. They reported that humans had retreated to their home system like wounded animals. Chancellor Vexitai stood in his war room on the Zephyrian capital world, looking at a map of local space. Red markers showed where his fleets were positioned around Earth's borders. Soon he would give the order to attack. "The humans are broken," he told his generals. "Their pathetic leader is dead, and they have no fight left in them. We will take their world and make them slaves." Admiral Krell was having a similar meeting on his flagship. The massive Hegemony war vessel bristled with weapons as it moved toward Earth's outer colonies. "Humans are weak," Krell growled to his officers. "They cry over one dead female. When we attack, they will surrender without firing a shot." But the aliens were wrong about everything. Deep in space, Captain Amy Foster sat in the command chair of the stealth ship Phantom. Around her, the bridge crew worked in whispers. They had been watching the Zephyrian fleet for 3 months, invisible and undetected. Amy was 35 years old, one of the best pilots in the human fleet. She had volunteered for the Ghost Fleet because she wanted to be the first to strike. Back at Margaret's killers, "Captain," her weapons officer said quietly, "we're in position. All ghost ships report ready." Amy looked at the tactical display. 50 human ships surrounded the Zephyrian fleet, but the aliens had no idea they were there. The stealth technology was perfect. "Remember," Amy said to her crew, "we leave no survivors, no witnesses, no evidence. When we're done, it should look like they just disappeared." At the same time, Admiral Jake Martinez sat in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface. Around him, dozens of screens showed the positions of every alien ship in local space. The humans had been watching and waiting for months. "All ghost fleets report ready," his aide announced. Jake thought about Margaret, about how she had died trying to make peace. Now there would be no peace. There would only be justice. "Execute Operation Phantom Strike," he ordered. The first target was the Zephyrian forward base at Rigel Prime. It was a heavily defended station with 1,000 aliens inside. They thought they were safe. Captain Foster's ship appeared out of nowhere, its weapons already firing. The station's shields collapsed in seconds. More ghost ships materialized around the base, hitting it from every angle. The Zephyrians tried to send a distress signal, but human jammers blocked all communications. They tried to launch fighters, but the ghost ships destroyed them before they could clear the launch bays. In less than 10 minutes, Rigel Prime was gone. Not damaged, not captured, but completely erased. When the smoke cleared, there was nothing left but empty space. The same scene played out across the galaxy. Zephyrian outposts, hegemony supply bases, and Etherian communication relays simply vanished. The alien commanders received no warnings, no explanations, no demands for surrender. Their ships and stations were just gone. Dr. Lisa Carter worked in her secret laboratory beneath the Pacific Ocean. She and her team had spent months learning how to hack alien computer systems. Now they were putting that knowledge to use. "We're inside their communication network," she told her team. "They can't send messages without us knowing about it." On her screens, she could see the panic spreading through alien space. Admirals were calling for reinforcements that would never come. Generals were giving orders to troops who were already dead. "They're trying to figure out what's happening," her assistant said. Lisa smiled coldly. "Let them wonder. Fear is our greatest weapon now." Captain Ryan Bell led a team of Ghost Regiment soldiers aboard a captured Zephyrian cruiser. They had boarded the ship while it was docked at a space station, killed the crew silently, and taken control without anyone noticing. "Bridge secured," Bell reported through his comm unit. "All crew eliminated. No alarms triggered." The ship's computers contained valuable intelligence about Zephyrian fleet movements and battle plans, but more importantly, they contained personal messages from the crew to their families. Bell read one message from a Zephyrian officer to his son. "The war against the humans will be over soon. We will take their world and make them pay for thinking. They could join the council." Bell deleted the message and moved to the next one. These aliens had celebrated Margaret's murder. Now they would pay the price. Back on Earth, President Patricia Hayes met with her military commanders. The first phase of the war was going perfectly. The aliens were confused and frightened, unable to understand how their forces were being destroyed. "Casualties?" she asked. "Zero," Admiral Ross reported. "We haven't lost a single ship or soldier. The ghost fleets are performing beyond our best projections." "What about alien casualties?" "Approximately 50,000 enemy personnel eliminated. 12 major bases destroyed. Their forward fleets are retreating toward their home systems." Patricia nodded grimly. "They wanted to see what happens when you kill a human leader. Now they're learning." The alien response was predictable. Chancellor Vexthai called an emergency meeting of the Triumvirate. His blue face was pale with fear and rage. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Our sensors show nothing. Our ships are being destroyed by ghosts." Admiral Krell's reptilian features were twisted with confusion. "Impossible. Humans are primitive. They don't have this technology." Matriarch Silandra spoke calmly, but her pale eyes showed worry. "Perhaps we underestimated them." "Underestimated them?" Vexthai roared. "They're insects, barely capable of space travel. Insects that have destroyed a quarter of our forward fleet," Silandra replied. The truth was becoming clear to the alien leaders. The humans they had dismissed as weak and primitive had been hiding their true strength. For 30 years, while begging for acceptance, they had been preparing for war. And now that war had begun. Captain Foster's ghost ship appeared near another Zephyrian base. This time the aliens were ready. They had sensors scanning for invisible ships and weapons pointed in every direction. It didn't matter. The human ships were not just invisible, they were smarter. They had learned alien tactics and turned them against their creators. The base's defenses fired at empty space while the ghost ships attacked from unexpected angles. In minutes, another enemy stronghold was destroyed. Across the galaxy, the pattern repeated. Alien forces that had been preparing to invade Earth found themselves fighting for their lives against an enemy they couldn't see or understand. The hunters had become the hunted. Admiral Martinez received reports from every front. The alien fleets were falling back, their commanders too frightened to advance. The mighty Triumvirate was learning what it meant to face human determination. "Phase 1 complete," he announced to his staff. "All enemy forward positions eliminated. Ghost fleets are moving to Phase 2 positions. Phase 2 would be different. Instead of hitting military targets, the humans would strike at the alien leadership itself. The beings who had ordered Margaret's murder would face justice. But first, they would face fear. They would learn what it felt like to be hunted by an enemy that could strike anywhere, anytime, without warning." Margaret Stone had died believing in peace. Now her people would show the galaxy what happened when you murdered an innocent woman who only wanted to build bridges between worlds. The aliens had awakened something terrible in humanity. And that terrible thing was just getting started. The retreat of the triumvirate fleets became a complete disaster, as humanity revealed the true size of their hidden war machine. What the aliens thought were random attacks by invisible ships turned out to be a carefully planned campaign to destroy their entire military power. Admiral Jake Martinez stood in Earth's war room, watching as red dots disappeared from the star maps. Each dot represented an alien military base that no longer existed. His officers worked quietly around him, coordinating the largest military operation in galactic history. "Status report," Jake ordered. "Ghost Fleet Alpha has eliminated the hegemony. Supply base at Wolf 359, his aide reported. Ghost Fleet Beta destroyed the Zephyrian shipyard at Vega. Ghost Fleet Gamma is approaching the Etherian command post at Proxima." Jake nodded. For 8 months, the alien leadership had believed they were fighting a small human revenge force. They were about to learn the truth. "Open communications to all human fleets," Jake commanded. "It's time to show them what we really are." Across the galaxy, 1,000 ghost ships suddenly became visible. The aliens watching their sensor screens couldn't believe what they were seeing. Where there had been empty space, massive human fleets appeared like magic. Chancellor Vextai stared at the display in his command center. His blue face had turned pale with shock. "Impossible," he whispered. "The humans have 1,000 ships? How did we not know?" His intelligence chief, General Zorak, trembled as he spoke. "Sir, our spies reported that Earth had maybe 50 warships. These numbers suggest they have been building in secret for decades." "Decades?" Vextai roared. "While we were laughing at their peace talks, they were preparing for war." The truth was worse than he imagined. Every diplomatic mission Earth had sent included engineers and scientists who studied alien technology. Every trade agreement gave humans access to materials they needed for their weapons. Every cultural exchange taught them about alien weaknesses. President Patricia Hayes appeared on communication screens throughout triumvirate space. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with cold fury. "People of the galaxy," she began. 8 months ago, your leaders murdered President Margaret Stone during a peace summit. They laughed at our grief. They called us weak and primitive." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Today, you learn the truth about humanity. We are not weak. We are not primitive. And we do not forgive the murder of innocents." As she spoke, human fleets surrounded the most important worlds in triumvirate space. The aliens' most powerful strongholds found themselves facing overwhelming human forces. Captain Amy Foster commanded the Ghost Fleet approaching Dominion Falls, the hegemony's greatest fortress world. The planet was protected by energy shields that could stop any known weapon. Its surface was covered with gun batteries and missile launchers. Admiral Krell himself was on the surface, commanding the defenses. "Captain," her weapons officer said, "their shields are at maximum power. They're trying to contact their other fleets for help." Amy smiled grimly. "Too bad their other fleets don't exist anymore. Dr. Carter, are you ready?" On Amy's main screen, Dr. Lisa Carter appeared from her laboratory on Earth. Behind her, banks of computers hummed with alien technology that had been captured and reverse-engineered. "Ready, Captain," Lisa said. "We're about to show them what happens when you share your technology with people you underestimate." Lisa's fingers flew over her controls. The computers she had built could speak the electronic language of any alien system. They could take control of enemy weapons and turn them against their owners. On Dominion Falls, Admiral Krell watched in horror as his own defense systems began targeting each other. The massive gun batteries that protected the planet turned inward and opened fire on their own shields. "What's happening?" Krell screamed at his technicians. "Sir, we're locked out of our own systems. Something is controlling our weapons." "Impossible, our security is perfect." But it wasn't perfect against humans who had spent 30 years learning how it worked. Lisa's computers didn't just hack the alien systems. They made the aliens attack themselves. The planet's shields collapsed under fire from its own weapons. Captain Foster's fleet moved in for the final assault, but they didn't need to fire a shot. The fortress world surrendered without a fight, its defenders too shocked to resist. Similar scenes played out across triumvirate space. On the Etherian research world of New Atlantis, Human hackers turned the aliens' own experiments against them. Weapons that had been designed to kill humans instead targeted their creators. Captain Ryan Bell led ground forces onto Zephyrian military bases where the Defenders' own security systems had turned against them. Door locks trapped alien soldiers in their barracks. Life support systems shut down in command centers. Communication arrays broadcast human surrender demands instead of alien orders. "This is impossible," General Zorak told Chancellor Vexthai. "How can they control our technology better than we can?" Vexthai had no answer. The proud Zephyrian civilization, which had ruled space for 1,000 years, was being defeated by a species they had dismissed as children. President Hayes appeared on screens throughout the Zephyrian capital. Her message was simple and direct. "Chancellor Vexthai, you have a choice. Surrender now and your people will be treated with mercy. Continue fighting and we will show you what human anger really looks like." Vexthai's pride would not let him surrender to humans. "Never. We are Zephyrians. We do not bow to inferior species." "So be it," Hayes replied. What happened next became known as the Night of Falling Stars. Every Zephyrian military installation in space simply stopped working. Their ships lost power and drifted helplessly. Their space stations went dark. Their communication networks went silent. Dr. Carter had found the central control system that managed all Zephyrian technology. With a few keystrokes, she had turned off an entire civilization's ability to fight. "Magnificent," Admiral Martinez said as he watched the reports come in. "We've just won a war without killing a single civilian." But the humans weren't finished. They had one more demonstration to make. The three most powerful leaders in the galaxy, Vexthai, Krell, and Silandra, received the same message simultaneously. President Hayes appeared on their private communication systems that were supposed to be impossible to hack. "Leaders of the Triumvirate," she said, "you wanted to see human technology in action. You wanted to test our resolve. You got your wish." Behind her, the view changed to show Earth's solar system. But instead of the peaceful research stations, the aliens expected to see, the display revealed massive weapons platforms pointed at the stars. "This is the Sol defense grid," Hayes explained. 50 weapons platforms, each one capable of destroying your largest ships. We built them while you were laughing at our peace offers. The display showed more hidden facilities, shipyards in asteroid belts, weapon factories on distant moons, training bases for human soldiers who had been preparing for this war their entire lives. "You murdered our president because you thought we were weak," Hayes continued. "You prepared to invade our world because you thought we were helpless. You were wrong about everything." Vexthai, Krell, and Silandra watched in growing horror as the true extent of human preparation was revealed. While they had been dismissing Earth as primitive, humans had been building the most advanced military force in the galaxy. "You have 48 hours to surrender unconditionally," Hayes announced. "After that, we stopped being merciful." The transmission ended, leaving the three alien leaders in stunned silence. In less than a year, humanity had gone from begging for acceptance to dictating terms to the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Margaret Stone's dream of peace was dead, but her people had built something even more powerful. They had built fear. And that fear was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. The 48-hour deadline passed without a single response from the Triumvirate leaders. Chancellor Vexthai, Admiral Krell, and Matriarch Silandra had chosen pride over wisdom. They would learn the cost of that choice. President Patricia. Hayes stood in the same room where Margaret Stone had planned her peace mission 1 year ago. Now, instead of preparing for diplomacy, Patricia was ending a war. "Admiral Martinez," she said calmly, "execute final operations." Jake nodded and turned to his communication officer. "Send the signal to all fleets. Operation Thunderstrike is now active." Across the galaxy, human ghost ships moved toward the 3 Triumvirate homeworlds. These were not random attacks or surprise raids. This was the final demonstration of human power. Captain Amy Foster watched her screens as Earth's largest fleet approached Zephyria Prime, the heart of Vexthai's empire. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans and silver cities that sparkled in the light of twin suns. It was also defended by the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. "Captain," her tactical officer reported, "planetary defense grid is activating. They have enough firepower to destroy our entire fleet." Amy wasn't worried. "Dr. Carter, are you ready to give them one last lesson?" On Earth, Lisa Carter sat before her computers with tears in her eyes. She was thinking about Margaret, about how her friend had died trying to build bridges instead of weapons. "Ready, Amy," Lisa said. "Initiating system override in 3, 2, 1. On Zephyria Prime, every defense system suddenly went silent. The massive orbital cannons that could crack moons stopped moving. The shield generators that protected the planet flickered and died. The communication arrays that connected the world to its empire went dark." Chancellor Vexthai stood in his palace, watching helplessly as his civilization's greatest defenses turned themselves off. Around him, his advisors ran in panic, trying to understand how the humans had gained control of everything. "Sir," General Zorak said with a trembling voice, "all systems are under enemy control. We can't even open doors without their permission." Vexithai's blue face had turned almost white. "How is this possible? We are the masters of technology." "Apparently not anymore," came a new voice. The Chancellor spun around to see Captain Ryan Bell standing in his throne room. Behind Bell, a dozen human soldiers in black armor held their weapons ready. They had appeared like ghosts in the most secure building on the planet. "How did you get in here?" Vexthai demanded. "We walked in," Bell replied simply. "Your security systems work for us now." Similar scenes played out on the other triumvirate worlds. Admiral Krell found human soldiers in his command bunker. Matriarch Silandra discovered that her personal guards were actually human agents who had been watching her for months. The three most powerful beings in the galaxy were prisoners in their own homes. President Hayes appeared on every screen in triumvirate space. Behind her stood the flags of 1,000 worlds that had joined the human alliance in the past year. "Citizens of the galaxy," she began, "1 year ago, your leaders murdered President Margaret Stone during a peace summit. They laughed at our attempts at friendship. They prepared to invade our world and enslave our people." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "Today, those leaders will face trial for their crimes, not under alien law but under human justice." The trials were broadcast live to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Billions of beings watched as Chancellor Vexthai, Admiral Krell, and Matriarch Silandra were brought before a human court. The evidence was overwhelming. Video recordings showed Vexithai firing the weapon that killed Margaret. Communication intercepts revealed the months of planning that went into the assassination. Personal messages between the three leaders showed their contempt for human life. "We were protecting the galaxy from a dangerous species," Vexthai said in his defense. "By murdering a woman who came in peace?" asked the human prosecutor. "By planning to invade a world that never threatened you." The trial lasted 3 days. The verdict was unanimous. All three leaders were found guilty of murder, conspiracy, and crimes against peace. The sentences were carried out immediately. With their leaders gone, the triumvirate civilizations surrendered completely. Their military forces laid down their weapons. Their governments asked for mercy from the species they had tried to destroy. President Hayes was generous in victory. She did not seek revenge against ordinary citizens who had done no wrong. Instead, she offered them something their old leaders never had, a chance to join a truly peaceful galactic community. "We will not rule you," she announced to the former triumvirate worlds. "We will not enslave you. We will offer you what we offered your leaders 1 year ago: partnership, friendship, and mutual respect." Many species accepted immediately. Others needed time to adjust to the new reality. But all of them understood the message. The age of bullying and conquest was over. The age of human leadership had begun. Dr. Lisa Carter was appointed head of the new Galactic Science Council. Her first project was to share human medical technology with species that had been denied it by the old regime. Diseases that had killed millions were cured within months. Captain Foster became the first commander of the Galactic Peace Fleet, ensuring that no species would ever again face unprovoked aggression. Her ghost ships patrolled the spaceways, invisible guardians of justice. Captain Bell established the Diplomatic Protection Service, guaranteeing that future peace negotiations would truly be peaceful. The murder of a diplomat became the most serious crime in galactic law. Admiral Martinez was named Supreme Commander of all human forces. But his job was no longer to make war. It was to prevent war by ensuring that potential aggressors understood the consequences of their actions. 1 year after the trials, President Hayes returned to Kepler Station for a very different kind of ceremony. Representatives from 300 worlds gathered to dedicate the Margaret Stone Memorial on the exact spot where Earth's president had died. The memorial was simple, a statue of Margaret with her hands extended in friendship, surrounded by children, from dozens of different species. At the base were her final words. "Tell them we tried." She tried to build peace through words, President Hayes said at the dedication. When that failed, we built peace through strength. The galaxy is safer today because of her sacrifice, and it will remain safe because of our vigilance. As the ceremony ended, the camera pulled back to show the massive human fleet surrounding the station. The ships were no longer hidden. They floated in space like a promise and a warning. The final scene showed a new group of aliens arriving at Earth, seeking humanity's protection from aggressive neighbors. They came not as equals seeking alliance, but as subjects requesting the aid of their superiors. The receptionist who greeted them was polite but firm. "Earth will consider your request. Please understand that we take the protection of peaceful species very seriously. Those who threaten the innocent will face the consequences." The age of human weakness was over. The age of human dominance had begun. And across the galaxy, Margaret Stone's dream of peace lived on, protected by the strength of the species that had loved her most. The aliens had wanted to see what humans were capable of. Now they knew, and they would never forget.